tell him what it is. Just a man and his podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. One by one, or it's a tag match. Either way for me, cause I'ma make a bloodbath. TST, make you see stars when I throw hands. Keep on spitting bars after bars, like a cage, man. I'ma get the Hardy Boys off the ropes, make it rain, man. You ain't seen a dry damn thing. You get it? You keep on talking shit and the referee count your digits. That's that 1, 2, 3. When he finally get up, he can't say his fucking ABCs. Look, pick your head up, you ain't gon' leave this. It's your boy Squint talking that shit. Go and tell him what it is. Just a man and his podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. One by one, or it's a tag match. Either way for me, cause I'ma make a bloodbath. TST, make you see stars when I throw hands. Keep on spitting bars after bars, like a cage, man.
It's your boy Squint here with another episode of A Man and His Podcast. The third time this year I've gone live with a returning guest for, I believe, the fourth time. I've had you on so many times I lost count. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, man. Who am I? Cam Hawkins, Yahoo Sports, The Ringer, Complex, probably a bunch of other places I'm not thinking of. But yeah, Ceehawk on your socials. You might see me at a local wrestling show near you at this point. So, a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Before we jump in this, I do want to mention we are live. So if you guys want to leave any comments and such, you can, and we'll make sure to hit them on this episode. My big question is, you're a busy man. How do you separate, how do you balance, I should say, the work and personal life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a really good position. I think a lot of people are in 2025 where, I've been working remote basically since the pandemic hit. My schedule's pretty normal, 8 to 5. And what's been really cool for me was the college gig was always very supportive about the media projects. So if I ever needed to travel, if I needed to maybe dip out for an hour or so to do an interview, it was always kind of understood. And I think, kind of the nature of working in higher education, there's always something else. There's always something new to earn, something new to try. So they've always encouraged that. So it hasn't felt like an overextension. I never felt like I need to step away from one to do the other. They mesh pretty well. So yeah.
And then you have interviewed dozens of people at this point. Last time I had you on, you had only had the Ricky Starks article out. Yeah. And since then, you've had all sorts of people. Has there been one where the Zoom meeting ends and you just sit back and you're like, damn, I really just got to chop it up with Jey Uso or Kevin Owens?
Definitely, Steve Austin. Steve Austin and Sting, those two were really different because, I grew up watching those guys. That was, when I'm in elementary school, staying up past my bedtime to watch them do their thing. You know what I mean? So those two really got to me. Being a man of a certain age, interviewing Lita was really, really cool. Somebody used to crush on when you were a kid. That was great. And then Jake Snake Roberts, kind of the same boat, even though he's a little bit before, like a Steve Austin when he was Steve Austin. He's a little bit before Sting when you get to the NWO Crow stuff. But talking to Jake, knowing that he kind of would change his life, it meant a lot to me to listen to him. So probably those where I really stepped away and was like, wow, little kid Cam will go crazy for this.
So who's on top of your you gotta interview them? Who's on top of that list?
It was sad when WrestleMania was in Dallas. What was that, 3 years ago now? I was doing backstage interviewing for one of Conrad Thompson's shows, and I'm talking to Eric Bischoff, and we just start talking about Scott Hall, and I'm like, damn, that's the one that I'll never get. You know what I mean? Because he had passed away kind of before I really started to get into this. Who's still out there? I think what I really want to do, a lot of the kids that I see locally, like Texas promotions, I want to do those interviews in 5 years, when they've like made it. And we can talk about, bouncing guys who used to bounce ideas off of me or look for pointers or ask if this works or if that works, or just, we hung out at the bar, we went to dinner. I think that's really cool. Like the established people, like that's going to come, you know what I mean? And we're at this weird spot where, because they do so much media, I don't know who's left that I haven't interviewed that I don't feel like I'm gonna. You know what I mean? We're kind of at that point. Like, if you look at like the WWE main event scene, I think the only people I haven't interviewed that are kind of in that area are who? Roman and Damian.
Yeah.
Everybody else, like I look up and down that WrestleMania card, and I've pretty much talked to or done something with everybody. On the AEW side, I would love to talk to Moxley. I don't know what the scenario would need to be for him to want to talk to somebody. Because again, you live with the most talented interviewer, right? Like, I don't even know what you want to do, but I tell you what, I've tried, and I think it just hasn't worked out timing wise. I'd love to talk to the Young Bucks. Like, and even though they aren't like necessarily my style, every chance I write about somebody in AEW, like I sing their praises because I understand how valuable they are to this whole thing working. Like them and Kenny Omega, I don't know. I'd love to really talk to Big E. It was originally he was going to be the first person I interviewed for Yahoo. We ended up going a different direction, but I talk to E every now and again anyway. I think that would be really fun though. Kind of getting his lay of the land and feels for all the things that he's done and hopefully still can do. So yeah.
No, definitely. I want to talk about the Yahoo Sports stuff because you're working under Ariel Helwani, who is, in my opinion, one of the best like combat sports journalists out there. How does it feel working under him, and how did that just come about?
Yeah. I was at DreamCon here in Austin, and Complex reached out to me to write a couple of pieces for them, and I kind of vague tweeted about it. So then WWE PR texted me, and they were like, yo, is this about like a new job? And I was like, I kind of explained the Complex, and they were like, oh, because somebody else reached out to us and they said, hey, I'm starting a new site. I want to write long form pieces. Who do I need? They're like, no, you need Cam Hawkins. Like that's the guy to go with. It's like, oh, so this is like August, give or take.
Yeah.
October, Ariel starts following me on the socials. And I was like, okay. So I ended up talking to Shaheen, who's the editor he brought over. And then like the president of Yahoo Sports like calls me and we get to talking. And of course, like he's from San Antonio. Of course he went to UT. Of course his degree's in English. So everything, we get along well. And yeah, man, this is all like September, October, and we kicked off in October. So yeah, it was just WWE and AEW have always been like super supportive of, I guess, the way that I write. It's just a little different. Sometimes I think it's more personal. I think to me, like I'm writing for my fellow English nerds and my literature nerds. You know what I mean? But I think it comes across in a way that still feels familiar, even if that's not like your undertaking. So yeah, when he reached out to WWE and AEW and said, hey, who's the guy I need? I was one of the names that came up, and we've been off to the races ever since. And I'll tell you, working under him is really interesting because I remember going to the Royal Rumble January of 23. And he's in the room, Ryan Satin's in the room. I think Chris Van Vliet's there. And I know when we did WrestleMania in LA, like we're walking through doing press, and like Ariel and Chris are like getting their own separate interviews from everybody. I was like, oh, that's that clout right there, right? So now to kind of be under that umbrella is really cool. And the thing is, like, I can text Ariel whenever about an idea and bounce that. He's a very hardworking person, but super easy to get a hold of. And I watched him go 4 hours today on his show. So it's hard to watch somebody do that and then be like, I don't know what I'm going to write this week. Now I'm gonna write something, damn it. But yeah, man, it's been really cool. Super personable, super friendly, and wants to give ideas on what he thinks will work. So yeah, it's been really cool.
So you mentioned like the WWE press conference rooms and all that. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. You asked a question not long ago at one of them, and then like some people on Twitter were not happy with it. How do you deal with how do you deal with criticism? Is I guess what I'm looking for.
Well, one thing, you're never gonna make the entire internet happy, right? Like it's not gonna work out like that. I think that if what you're doing is true to what you want to present, that's what's most important. Like it was really funny. I asked, a question about employee safety to Triple H, and he gave me like a general answer. And that's not really the place to like dig and prod, but there's ways to get that information too, right? But then somebody was like, yo, I got to give you props. Like I had you wrong. It's like, all right, like, what is this supposed to mean to me? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't like me yesterday. You like me today. That doesn't change anything for me. I do think that I've gotten better about criticism. I wasn't always like easy to say, but I was very quick to respond to people who I felt were like misinterpreting what I was doing or trying to misconstrue the ideas that I put out. But I think, over time, listen, man, you got to do your work and you got to get on, because I feel like at this point, I have a couple of things. I have the respect of my peers. I have the respect of, these companies, and I have the respect of the talent, and that's what's most important. Like I was like this weekend, I'm kicking it with Suzuki. I'm joking with Dijak. You know what I mean? Like it was, and then, my man Alex Kane invited me out to Dallas to be a part of his crew, right? I got my old lady making signs, like picket signs for him. Like it was great, got to hang with my man Kev Knight, Faye Jackson, me and Bobby Fish cracking jokes, you know what I mean? And I think that companies being comfortable enough with you around, to me, that really means a lot. And so I know that I'll get to continue to do the kind of work that I want to do. So, it's Joe Blow 82. Oh, I'll tell you this. The fun thing about working for Yahoo Sports is one of those sites that does have like the dedicated comment people, like the guys who are going to comment on like every new post. And so watching them just hate all of the things that we do, I love it, because that means it's working. Because you took your time to sit down and read this whole thing to say wrestling's fake or however you feel. Thank you for your clicks. We appreciate that.
That's funny. Has there been a time where you've been at one of those press conferences and you didn't get to ask a question and you wanted to? And if so, what did you want to ask and who was it towards?
I like to kind of sit back. I felt like at that point, it was important to ask that specific question. I thought that we had a room full of people who were curious. This is the height of Vince McMahon accusations. Like it's right there, and it's time for that. I kind of like to sit back and watch everybody else ask stuff. Like if I had known, I didn't know The Rock was coming out, so I asked Roman a question, and I thought it was a good question. But I was like, man, if I knew The Rock was going to be there, I would have waited. But yeah, no, it's funny. Like I'm not going to the Rumble, not going to Elimination Chamber, definitely doing Vegas, but like I do think there's value in that, but I kind of think I'm not like Emily May. That's very entertainment based, right? Like Issa, NYC Demon Diva, very like entertainment based. And so I think that there's like an entertainment tonight aspect of when they ask questions, right? And I think that's, to me, that's more of what that room is for. I do like to kind of pick the brains about like why a wrestler feels the way they do. You know, talking to Rhea Ripley about her attitude, talking to Roman about, you know, what really changed during the pandemic, like attitude wise, right? But I think like even if I go to a few more, I might just be in the cut, man, just kind of enjoying it. But I love seeing new people get up there because I know how much it means to them to get to say that you were in that room and to get to ask something interesting. So yeah, I don't really, no regrets.
Yeah, no, definitely. We did get a comment. Tyler El Guapo from Goon Squad. He asked, I have a question for Ceehawk if you're taking questions. Tyler, go ahead and shoot the questions. We'll answer them on here. If you, what's it called? If you could ask The Rock, what would it be?
You know, like as much as I said I'd want to, I don't know. Because this is the funny thing. I would never want to interview The Rock because I don't feel like, one, I don't feel like I'll be getting new information. Two, I don't really feel like he would be forthright in the way that I'd want. You know what I mean? Like he got a lot of money to protect, you know, and that's his jam, and that don't make him a bad dude or nothing like that. It's just like you're not gonna get what you get out of like a Seth Rollins who lives and breathes this, and you understand why he lives and breathes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll probably ask him, you know, let me hold something. And see where we go from there. Yeah.
No, definitely. No, I get where you're coming from because there's been times where I've like thought to myself, oh, I want to interview so and so, and then I have to sit back and think to myself, well, would they fit my style of podcasting? Because like if I interview like somebody like one of the old guys like from before the Attitude Era, they would not have a good time on this podcast because I'm out here cracking jokes and shit. They won't take that. But yeah, no, definitely. My next question is, so we're in this like resurgence of wrestling, and whenever you were younger, wrestling was like the cool thing. And then as you got older, it kind of became like, oh, wrestling's fake, yada, yada. And now we're back at that resurgence where it's like I had people that were making fun of me in high school talking about The Rock last week. How does that feel for you? Because you've lived during the peak, the down, and the peak again. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's fun like when your friends want to go or your friends want to watch with you. That is really cool. Like your friends who were not into wrestling. Or like you said, they bring up like The Rock or it comes up in passing. That is fun. You know, it's funny. The downtime was kind of when I was in college. So we would still like have it on the TV with like the dorm room open, people going room to room watching and hanging out. So even though it kind of fell off, it was still a very social thing like when I was in school. But yeah, it is nice to be able to like have conversation. Like I throw watch parties like every couple of months now because people want to be outside watching, you know, people want to experience that together. So it's fun, man. It is fun. I'm waiting on my check from the last one. We'll see when that comes in, but it's fine.
My favorite is my dad. My dad claims up and down he's not a wrestling fan. He's like, I keep up with it. I'm not a wrestling fan. But last week I'm trying to get Netflix pulled up and I'm standing in front of the TV trying to get it, and it turns on. You go, sit your ass down. I'm trying to watch it. I was like, God damn, Pops, I thought you weren't a fan. What are you?
You're locked in, man. I love that. Absolutely.
Or like he'll do the classic dad just standing at the doorway or standing in front of the TV, hand on the hip, just watching it. Yep. And I'll like turn around, like, you watching this? And he's like, I'm just checking in on it, seeing what's going on. But my favorite's when he'll come up to me. He's like, I seen on Facebook, Sean Ross something. He said so and so and so and so, and I was like, oh God, you're in now, dude. Yeah, man. You're locked in. Tyler did send another comment, and he said, I know you interviewed Sting, and congratulations on that huge accomplishment. First off, I think there might be a second part.
I'm about to say, yeah, I'm waiting on the question. He gassing
it. But how is those watch parties that you're doing for these pay-per-views?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. You know, we get together. The bar give us like a nice little discount. We'll have like a big outside patio space. Everybody's out there hanging out, man, drinking whiskey, smoking cigars, and enjoying wrestling. It is very fun. We were talking about doing something for we might do a SmackDown after party, which could be fun. Depends on who's in town and who's not. But yeah, like SmackDown, Saturday Night's Main Event, and then Rumble are all coming up like here really, really quickly. So we'll see. But yeah, man, it's good camaraderie. It's good fun. And again, it being cool again. It being something people want to be a part of. It makes the job more fun. It does.
No, definitely. What's the most like obscure wrestler that a non-wrestling fan who is now a wrestling fan has brought up, if that makes sense? Like somebody that like a name that is not a household name, I guess you could say.
Obscure wrestler. I mean, and it's funny. Of course they're not obscure, right? But being from where I'm from, you hear about the Von Erichs from anybody, you know? Like, yeah, I used to love Kerry Von Erich. Like, and this is like, I think it's a guy I worked with at like KB Toys in college, brought up Kerry Von Erich. But it's always kind of somebody local. Of course, you know, the big names, the Rocks, the Austins, the DXs, like all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's always somebody kind of local to the state. Somebody was telling me, a kid was telling me about training at Dustin's school, which ain't too far from here. I think it's in Leander. So yeah, but it's always like somebody kind of local to Texas.
It's Tyler did send another question. He says, my question is, who is your personal one that you would want to interview that would be your peak for you?
Yeah. And so yeah, I touched on it a little bit. Like again, I never got to interview Scott Hall. That's kind of the dream one. He's my favorite wrestler. You know, and also probably like a Kurt Hennig. He was right there with him. Such a big fan of those guys. I think that I'd love to get Booker T and Stevie Ray together. I think that would be a really fun conversation. You know, it's tough, and it's not even to like brag about it, but like it's tough when you've kind of ran the gamut of people at that top level. Like, of course, like when I talk to Bret Hart, but like, you know, I read Bret's book. What new am I going to ask Bret Hart, right? As a San Antonio kid, you know, when I got to interview Shawn Michaels, that was huge for me. You know, I told Shawn the story of him stealing our varsity football and us having to run because of that. But yeah, I've been really blessed to be in a position to where just about everybody who I was a big fan of, who I have fond memories of, I've either interviewed or have talked to enough to where it feels like that, you know? So, and I mean, look, you want to talk about a good problem. And I'm not saying I've locked it down, but like my biggest problem in 2025 is hopefully who I get John Cena for. Cause like I'm imagining, it's funny when I signed on with Yahoo Sports, I told them, I said, it was a couple of names and Drew was one of them, but it was a couple of names where I was like, look, if I get this person, it's for the ringer. Like I've made that agreement with the guys and with my editor that's what we're doing. But I can't wait till I get the email. Hey, Cam, we've got Cena. And then I have like Cal over here and Ariel over here. Like, so yeah, that should be fun. But you know, if we get lucky, you know, there's another guy who's right there in the WrestleMania main event. And hey, I'm sure one place would love one guy, the other place would love the other if we could lock them down. So.
What's one question that you are dying to ask John Cena?
I think the biggest thing I want to ask him, what was it in you that you decided this was the way to carry yourself as a main eventer? Because, you know, there's a gap between Austin, Rock, Cena. You know, there's a bit of a space there. And they work for the same company under the same boss, but it's a different world. He's not a household name. They're bringing him up. He's figuring things out as he goes along. But Cody, you know, told me how much he modeled himself after John Cena as far as the work ethic, showing up to everything, being a part of everything. So that's what I want to know. What is it about when you got in that position that had you so locked in and this is the way you carried it? Because look, man, there's people, and it's documented, so I'm not like breaking any news, but there's people that he didn't feel like needed to be there because they weren't working as hard as he was in his eyes. And so I don't know if he was right or wrong. I know it did not. He's great. And I want to know if he feels that he's right or wrong, if it was right to carry it like that, if he was wrong about anybody who ended up being a success. I want to know the mantra of John Cena would be my biggest thing. And I think that would carry us a few different directions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I've been wanting to ask you this. I don't know if I ever did. So when you interviewed Gunther, you called football soccer. He did not take kind to that. How did that feel in that moment?
He loved it. He was great, man. He was so fun. I think I've really enjoyed interviewing international talent because, like, they have different sensibilities. They came up doing different things. The way they even like process wrestling is different. So, like, talking to Gunther, talking to Drew, like those were really, even Rhea. It was really, really fun. People not necessarily from what you and I come from, how they process wrestling and how they process each other's personalities, how they deal with like not getting along with people. It's really, really interesting. But nah, man, he was great, man. Gunther was great. He's a big teddy bear. Don't tell him I said
that. And then you mentioned the local Texas scene. If you could name 3 local indie wrestlers to you that you think are next up, like in the next 5 years, because you mentioned earlier there's people you want to interview in 5 years. What 3 are those?
Stephen Wolf, Maya World. You never want to do the third, right? I love Brick Savage. I love Mysterious Q. I love Exodus Prime. There's so many good ones. I can't even put like Hyon on that list anymore because Hyon's, she's international now. She's everywhere. But definitely in my world, Stephen Wolf, insert third wrestler so that I don't get in trouble.
Don't put anyone in third place, absolutely.
Exactly.
And then these last 2 questions. This one is, so you are the guy I always go to for advice and feedback and all of that. Who is that for you? Who do you go to bounce like advice? Like, hey, how did this sound? How does this look? Who's your guy for that?
My editor Cal at the Ringer. I look up to him the way I would look up to one of my college professors. And how he goes about business, how we bounce ideas. I would love for somebody to just be able to sit back and watch our editing process because it is very, very hands-on. And to me, our relationship is a lot like a rapper and an engineer. So not the producer who made the beat, but the engineer. You need to say it like this. What if you put it out there like this? And I really love that relationship. Of course, like my man Kaz, super media man. Really all the guys at Black Wrestling. I definitely love Lil Bo. I love her getting eyes on the things that I do. But yeah, that's kind of it is kind of that BRP Ringer family who I really go to whenever like I'm looking to really get ideas on what I'm doing creatively. So yeah.
Absolutely. And then this final question, I usually ask for any piece of advice, but I've had you on so many times in the past that I'm sure you're running out of pieces of advice. So this one is going to be more broad. Those that don't know, if you type in Ceehawk in the GIF search bar, there's a GIF that pops up.
There is.
I want to ask you, Cam, what is some advice to the gentlemen out there that want to get their bitches up?
Okay, all right. Well, let me disclaimer. Bitches is unisexual. So, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, for boys and girls, animals, mineral, vegetable, whatever. Listen, man, you got to be true to you. You got to be true to yourself. You can't worry about what the next man's doing and what the next man's thinking, right? And I think the biggest piece of advice, you can't be a follower. You can share ideas with people. You can definitely feel the same ways about things, but if you in Andrew Tate's comment section and that's your big bro, it's never going to work out the way you want it to. I need you to avoid the manosphere, even if there's a womanosphere. Avoid that. Avoid this groupthink. Okay. Stay true to you. Do what feels good to you. And if you're doing it to impress the next man, it's not going to work out the way you want it to.
Absolutely. And then one final thing, if you want to let the people know where they can find you on social media, upcoming events you might be at, etc. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So yeah, on the socials, it's Ceehawk, Ceehawk. As far as the work goes, most recently interviewed Drew McIntyre right here at the beginning of the year for The Ringer. Most recently, what's the last thing I did with Yahoo right at the end of the year? Oh, wrote about the wrestlers of the year. Will Ospreay and Tony Storm kind of taking home top honors after our Yahoo Sports vote. And I've been heavy over there the last few months, man. Trick Williams, Daniel Garcia, other named people. Wrote about the New Day. Wrote about Motor City Machine Guns. So yeah, it's been really up and down the ladder, and it's been a lot of fun. Of course, the lovely Liv Morgan. So yeah, man, been working. And then as far as what I got coming up, not doing the Rumble, not doing Elimination Chamber, but you'll definitely see me out in Vegas. I have a boss who like Vegas is like his home base when he's not home. So I assume we're gonna be putting something together. And then of course there's Wale Mania. I'm not officially involved with Fourth Rope. Maybe that'll change. I don't know. But yeah, Vegas will kind of be the big one. So get your money up, get your bitches up, and we go out there and have a good time for sure.
Awesome. As always, guys, thanks for listening. Thank you for coming on again for, like I said, a record-breaking, like third or fourth time I've had you on. As always, you can leave a thumbs up, a thumbs down, 1-star, 5-star, like, comment, subscribe, do what you wish. It don't matter to me. Peace.